Okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to give you guys some update and some news on things that are going on, get you up to speed, and then we're going to hear from Chad. And it was a real good fit, and I wanted to have Chad present. It's very inspiring what's going on. And Donna and I just came from an event in Acapulco, Mexico for a week called Narco Poco. So it's just a bunch of anarchists, kind of, you know, this expatriating work done and kind of what opportunities are for a lot of, I mean, it was the beautiful people. They're about, the average age is like 30. Yeah, I'm the old guy. And they, beautiful, smart, young men and women that are just, I've never been to a freedom event that had so many beautiful women. Donna was definitely in the top percentages there on the beach in her bikini. I said, baby, get in the surf, man. We're going to do it up there. So I got.
You got that out.
Yeah, no, you should see the pictures. It's Donna coming out of the surf. It was like a James Bond movie with Halle Berry. Sunset in the back and everything. We had a good time. The one thing is that there was one kind of at the very last night, Sunday night, it was kind of a dark moment. You know, we had the young lady on my show yesterday. There's always this game, spot the fit, you know. Who's the one asking about taxes once you revealed it, where you're going to how, kind of where you put your stuff and asking the questions. And it's kind of, yeah, the spotlight started going, and you win, you're the spot the fed, you know. But, so the problem with whether she was or not is not the point. The point is how we treat people. And once that happened, oh, no, don't talk to them, they're, you know, just don't be stupid and say stuff anyway, but they make stuff up anyway. You know, they'll just, you know, pretend. My problem was, as we get in further along into what's coming, if you're paranoid, best advice I got when I first started doing pot in the late 80s, a good friend of mine said, if you stop being so paranoid, all those people will stop following you. That doesn't mean they're not there. It's just you don't care. You know, it's a distraction. Fear is the mind killer. So if you just be nice and you can create a positive vibe, at least the human being behind that title or whatever it is that they're there for, at least they are able to not be malicious. You know, they'll just, in the report, and he said and did, you know, you want to like make them feel guilty a little bit or something, you know. So we kind of outed on the show that, yeah, this was a concern in people, and somebody that had befriended her and so on, we got her to come on and tell her whole story. Then it started to make a little more sense why she was so concerned about taxes and various different things. So we want to keep it in a positive way. It's always better to do it that way. What happened was, when I did the I was on the media panel and so on, then I gave the presentation that a lot of these guys that are the smartest people on the planet, because there was a whole day that was devoted just to Bitcoin. And these are people, there was a gentleman named Roger Ver, where they call him Bitcoin Jesus. He got a bunch of Bitcoin early on, so he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever. Well, he funds a lot of liberty things, but he renounced his U.S. citizenship because it would cost him $1 gazillion in taxes if he, you know, didn't do it. So he goes, all right, I'm not a U.S. citizen anymore, Japan. Well, trying to come back into the United States, they won't allow him to come into the United States. We can't speak the language he's so well known. So he does the Snowden thing, Skypes in, that kind of deal. Well, what they did is Cody Wilson had just done a desktop mill that you put a block of aluminum in, or an 80% AR lower, and it's not a gun, it's just aluminum. It's not machined into a lower for an AR-15. You put it in this machine, push a button, zzz, 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 done. And the U.S. government was making, see, we got to get on these billets. People are just buying like $30 and they're milling out and making their own gun. We can't. And he takes that video of them whining about it, and he superimposes it with the video of him actually doing what they're saying. They go, yep, and this is how it's done. $1,000 and you can get yours. In 24 hours, he sold $250,000 worth, 250 of them. Now he wants to print his 3D printing gun, not the machining, not the milling, He's printing a gun, and they have a new printer now that has 2 extruders, and one is carbon fiber. So you can make it very strong. And I've seen this Consumer Electronics show. It's called a Mark Forge, and it is just awesome. This is, you print broken, whatever the heck, a new scanned into the piece on my back door of my truck that goes and breaks all the, and it sticks. And you're going to have 12-year-olds freaking building their own rocket engines made out of carbon nanotube of whatever. And the nanotubes that we're talking about, Rice University, working with a chemical company in Germany, are now able to make thread rope nanotubes. It is over.
What?
Nanotubes is like, imagine, you know, a thread that would be like a thread can lift up a car block engine, you know, I mean, an engine block. And this is just, it's enormously strong. If you put this through any device or hinge or something breaks, and you just take and scan it in with a 3D scanner, go print, and where you want the carbon, it comes out, indestructible piece of whatever. Kids do this on their desktops now. You give me, I was 12 years old and I had this technology, oh, get out of the way. What it does is it makes distributed manufacturing. No warehousing. The chemical repair guy shows up and see, oh yeah, this is what's wrong with it, pushes a button and prints out the part right there for you. I don't have to go and order it and wait for the thing to come in from Taiwan. You know, it's just right there. So he wanted this technology. Mark Forge goes in and said, nope, we're not selling it to you. I just said, no, we're not selling it to you. They're afraid that there's some kind of liability, somebody make a gun out of it. So he does a video, and he's on Wired magazine. It's all over the internet. You know, and he goes, all right, we know how this is going to go, right? He's walking in the parking lot at night. They just said that, you know, they're not going to give it to me. You know, I want your 3D printer. I need to print out. I'm going to print a gun with it. We all know how this is going to work. Here's a $6,000 printer, what this thing costs. He goes, $15,000 for the first one that gets here. No questions asked, $15,000. And everybody's like, oh, what? So Keith Cernick's like, well, I'll do it, and I'll do it. So I just texted him, and I go, so how many do you got sitting in your driveway? You know, I just want to know. So this is the background that was going on, and Federal Express and UPS announced that they won't ship his finished product. So Donna and I had bought one. We had one waiting on us. So I'm going at the end of the month to Texas, where he's at in Austin for a Bitcoin conference there, and I'm going to pick it up. I wonder if I can make it back with it, but we'll see what happens. You know? But it's ready for us to do, but FedEx and UPS won't ship it. So what does he do? Makes a big deal out of that. They won't ship our thing. It's perfectly legal. And it's a game. So he was supposed to be one of the speakers down at Aquaponics. Well, he gets kind of warned off, saying, you don't want to be out of the country at this time. You know, you don't want to be in an extra trip. So he didn't go. So that was too sad. But this is what we're up against. And so many people, hundreds of people, go down to Acapulco is now really a resort area for the locals. It's Mexican, you know, Central American, South America, Latin speaking. There's not that many gringos there. They go to Mazatlan and Cabo and, you know, wherever the heck the other place, Cancun or something. So this was where it was hot, you know, 30, 40 years ago, man. It was Acapulco. And we used to stay at the Copacabana. They got played in the elevator. It's freaking in your head forever. And of all the hotels are all white, you know, and they had this trim on the one, the Copacabana was Bitcoin orange. You know, this orange. So I'm going, what the heck? They do that for us, you know? So it was a really good time. And the point that I was making, as a lot of this kind of little bit of darkness, dread of how bad it's going to get, and threat and so on, China just came out and announced that their renminbi, their currency, is going to be the world currency now. They got billboards around, you know, the world and saying airports and so on, invest in it, here we go. Russia has pulled out and started their own exchange, you know, banking system. We have it's called SWIFT, and they're competing. And I think the dollar is going to start going really fast. And if it hits, you know, major inflation, you know, even gas prices are going to go up. So it's going to be a fear thing. Another thing is that I know a gentleman that's involved is a sergeant with the Phoenix Police that is one of the main representatives of the Fusion Center here. And his email, even though he's Phoenix Police Sergeant, is at FBI.gov. And I go, explain this to me. We're just one big happy family. So So in conversations over the last few weeks, it's pretty clear that the local police have been federalized already. This is done. I watched a presentation that was given at Liberty Forum by Naomi Wolf. She is a feminist, liberal, anti-gun Jewish princess from New York that kind of whatever, and all of a sudden, she wrote a book in 2008 about the coming police state and the 10 things that a fascist dictator do with closing down a democracy, a society. You do this, you do this, you do this. Because she was a child of Holocaust survivors. So her families warned, look man, this is what's happening.
Ronnie, did she write Shock Doctrine or something like that?
She wrote a Death of America something. I introduced her, she's been on Charles's show, and I introduced her at the Revolution March in Washington back in July of '08 and all this. So she was very well known in the progressive space. Her and Chris Hedges are friends and so on, that kind of thing. Well, she made the announcement, when they start arresting journalists, that's when you know. Well, they started. And her big scream is when they did the NDAA, when the executive branch, the president, can unilaterally just arrest, target anyone, put you in jail, and never see you again, legally, here we go. Well, that was done. So she's been, whoa, when people don't get it, well, of course we did. We anticipated this decades ago. The libertarian mindset, this is what, so what do? You got to make people less afraid or not put yourself in a position to beg for the government to come save us kind of thing. So, Chad being here is a big part of this, and it's an inspiration, because one of the main things is just drinking food. If you know where your meal's coming from, you got to drink water. Things are better than most. There's a lot of opportunity with technology to free us in a lot of areas. And I gave the presentation, and it started off with just the Jetsons and their flying car. And I go, I didn't know that the Jetsons started in 1962. I was born in '61. The Jetsons, it's like life now. A lot of the stuff, robots and communication things, Dick Tracy watches, and self-walking dog, robot, treadmill, whatever the heck, So I'm going, where is my flying car? This is what I was promised. Then they have Star Trek, I get Enterprise up there, and then we have guys landing on the moon. They go, you really think we landed on the moon? I go, well, we're really going to find out pretty quick, because we're going back, and SpaceX is going to do it. We're just going to go and take a picture, or it's going to be there or not. So we're going to find out one way or another. So I went over, government space program. They promised my generation. We're just so excited, and they give us a space shuttle, and then the next decade a space shuttle, and the next decade a space shuttle, and the next decade a space. This is government involved, okay? So then you get into 2004, and Spaceship One, Government Zero, does that thing. And we go about the space stations that are private and all the innovations, and now SpaceX has already been landing the first stage back, and playing with that. And the first time that they actually, there's been high seas and all that, because they wanted to do it out in the ocean on a barge, and they don't want to, take out Miami or something, right? So they're going to come back, and they're going to land the first stage, 9 rockets get saved, and we're going to, it's going to be very cheap to go to space. It's just kerosene and oxygen. I just found out yesterday or day before, Blue Origin is Jeff Bezos from Amazon, has his own space program in big sections out in West Texas. Well, his whole thing, you're talking about drones, he's going to deliver stuff. He's like, yeah, well, we're going to do suborbital flights of rockets that are going to go up to Gold Rush and deliver their dredge, out in the middle of the nothing. We have airships, blimps. The future is going to be, it's amazing what's coming. Well, the government, they want to get their regulation, and they want to protect their buggy whip, unions and all this kind of stuff, and so there's going to be issues, but it's just going to blow by, and it may bypass America. We're going to be increasingly going down and down the economic ladder as these smaller, less burdened countries are just going to be exploding, and that's what our trip to Mexico is about. Because these, it's where is it the worst? You got war and strife. It's like a Jim Rogers thing. It's like you go and you buy where there's blood in the streets. Honduras. Honduras is starting to come up. They go, all right, we'll do this free enterprise zone. We have some friends brought over from Las Vegas. They went to Guatemala City just to create the infrastructure for you to be able to work in these enterprise zones in Honduras. And it's just, you come down, move your factories, just like the Maquiladora thing that used to be on the border with Mexico. You went across the border, you had all kinds of free manufacturing and things that you could do. And so the United States is pushing all this out. And it's because of the special interest mindset of how that it's just, it's killing us. So I look at all these innovations and things that are happening, and what happened was Jeff Bezos at Amazon, keep in mind, CIA uses Amazon Cloud for their data storage and information. So your movie that you rented, book that you got from Amazon shares drive space with the CIA's next-gen drone strike, okay? So I'm not thinking they're like good guys to begin with. So what does Jeff Bezos do to Elon Musk at SpaceX? They filed a patent infringement that SpaceX retrieving the first stage and landing violated Jeff Bezos' patent. On what? Retrieving rockets. The fact that he would even do that, you just want to backhand, you stupid. Whoa. Well, I didn't even know this was going on. A patent judge has said, nah, we're not going to, enforce, we're not going to let that one go by. But the fact that they would do it, this is the battle. Elon Musk, which may be as much as, government subsidized or whatever anyway, but you have Elon Musk wants to, we're going to go to Mars and get away. Electric cars, solar, doing it himself, fighting. Jeff Bezos in with the system, CIA working on surveillance of whatever. And they're trying to stop this new technology. Planetary Resources, James Cameron is probably the biggest name the director of Avatar and Titanic and all that stuff. They have a company that now they've already put up satellites that were crowdsource funded on Kickstarter. They're called CubeSats. And I was showing this too. These satellites scan asteroids. Well, there's a lot of asteroids that share Earth's orbit. I didn't know that. That's why a lot of them, kind of all of a sudden, ooh, there went one. So you can go and you can scan, and you see, oh, that one's like, 20% palladium. Let's go get that one, So they're just going out and capturing these asteroids. This is going on right now. They're going to be, and it just came out, Peter Diamandis from the X Prize, they go, we are in the generation of the first trillionaire. And the first trillionaire is going to be the person that conquers space. So it might be Elon Musk. In this mindset, I presented this to everybody. Well, look, I don't think you guys really know how far we've come. And showing this, they went, wow. They just had no idea. Smart as these people are, this kind of information is being suppressed. And I could see, and the people that came up and we talked over the week and so on, I could see the inspiration of this to give you some hope. I could tell that there is an effort, a conscious effort to keep you afraid. To put you, fear is the mind killer, to have you worry about your next meal, have you worry about, war and famine and hunger and mushroom clouds and Turkey jihad, okay? There was a gentleman that we had on the show before, we had him on just yesterday, that came up with an application that he was demonstrating there and talking about it, and I want to share with you guys, something I'm thinking about. I haven't made the decision yet, but this is what we're going to do. First thing is, next weekend, Saturday at the Crescent, where we have our Freedom Summit, we're doing a Bitcoin Summit this year. The reason is because Bitcoin as a technology is going to explode on the planet. There's no getting around it. The man's going to try and control and do whatever, doesn't matter. But if this isn't the answer to everything, it's going to be something like this. The ability to have encrypted communication so that you can do, wealth, money, documents, titles, registrations, everything to where government can't change it. Because what's going on in developing countries is that all of a sudden it's investments coming in from all over the world, China, US, Russia, and they go, well, we need this land. Oh, no problem. We got paperwork that doesn't belong to that guy. Hey, this is mine, generation of my family. Oh, it doesn't say so here. So how do you, preserve documents? When it's worth $5,000, you can get a clerk to say whatever they want, which is what they're doing. So this technology provides for the ability to have accurate, forever, encrypted information to make government work better as if that was my goal, okay? So I'm like, they're still going to use the power of government to make you afraid to get you to do whatever they want. So I want to eliminate the fear. What we're going to do, next Saturday, there's a gentleman about my age at Las Vegas. His name is Julian Tosh, and he goes by Tuxibet. They know him on the internet. And he's going to explain from his perspective Bitcoin technology, because he was very successful when the internet started in the early 90s. And he could see what was happening. And he's one of these technical guys that invested and did well. And I had a guy named Michael Turpin on yesterday, big venture capitalist, 30 companies, millions of dollars. I keep track of these guys. Well, they see Bitcoin technology as the same thing that happened to the internet 20 years ago. So they're going, here we go. They're investing in it. We're going to explain it to people because right now they have the technology for determining, Apple Pay and Google credit cards and interface with the banks and all that is set up in such a way that all these machines that take credit cards are going to be able to use Bitcoin. When that happens, by this next October, one of the exchange guys, the providers, is going to be speaking next weekend also. Within days of presenting this to them, talking to them about how this technology works, they're going, well, hell, that's all I need. I can push a button, there's the widget, goes in, software done. This is for new users and merchants. This is not Bitcoin people talking to other Bitcoin people about how Bitcoin they are. This is about the new innovation, how this technology is going to be one of the components of freeing humanity on a global scale. One of the problems is it doesn't recognize borders or boundaries. It's a digital world, everything. So what happens is Don and I bought some land up in Sholo, and we, put it in a trust, and bought it to a trust, with a trust, and I trusted my safe, okay? So we didn't file it with the county recorder. Even though we have the paperwork, if somebody challenged anything, we got the highest, ownership. And we're paying the taxes. I don't want to fight that battle. It's not that much. But we're waiting to register this land on the blockchain so that the world has a timestamp that this is freaking mine. GPS ordinance of mine. Well, who recognizes that? I don't care. I just want it to be, defined. This is the kind of stuff that's coming, and it makes government irrelevant, antiquated. They fear this, and they want us to be afraid. Mushroom cloud afraid. St. Louis Arch, Golden Gate Bridge, toast. If that's what it takes. False flag in the woods, doesn't matter, we're be afraid. As I'm talking to representatives of government and law enforcement, their emphasis is that, even 9/11 had a couple of terrorists that, drove through Phoenix and stayed overnight and had a girlfriend and whatever in Phoenix, and we've got to be afraid. There is going to be a big increase in Phoenix City taxes, and it's going to be to keep us safe. We need more cops. We got everything. Here it comes. So what I wanted to do is I was thinking, and this is the plan. It's not really a plan. I'm still thinking about it. The mayor race is this August. I mean, like right now. In 1990, when I first started doing the political thing and so on, Donna and I ran as a write-in in 90 just to get standing to challenge 44 election laws that I made the arguments all the way to the 9th Circuit Court of Appeals. I'm standing there I got an argument. You guys suck and I need you to agree with it. They go, we don't agree. I go, okay, that's not fun. So, but we got a lot of laws changed. The thing is that it documented a lot of stuff and people understood, and because you got a government number, be a campaign number, arrest number, a lawsuit number, a number, then you get press. Well, the thing about campaigns is we were able, even as a write-in, now you're legal to put up signs. We did that like with the Levolution. A lot of heck, we didn't even have a pack for that, we just did it. So if I run for mayor, even as a write-in, I can put up as many signs as I want and direct them to a page. What would be on that page? Do I want to go do the forums and speak and talk to press? No, I don't care about that. I want people to not be afraid. They're going to try and make you afraid. It's going to be big, giant, dirka jihad of whatever, invading cross, and here it comes, we need tanks. Okay? That's coming. They made it very clear to me. And if they don't have one, they're going to make one. So if we have a landing page, and we have, for this, we call it the lfactor.org. Liberty, the determining factor. And it was born in the mid-90s, and this is why. They always assumed that Republicans lost to Democrats because the Libertarian was in the race, especially when we made up more of the difference. They even tried to pass laws this last election cycle where Libertarians could not be on the ballot because senior editor of Freedom Speech, Pal Gamma. You know, Kirsten Sinema, they blamed her, her winning on Pal. And we're like, oh, cool, you guys keep thinking that. Because the point, yeah, just have a better Republican, and you don't have that problem, you know. But the liberty, freedom, is a voting bloc. And it keeps getting bigger, but you're still voting. And what happens is they need that that's the kingmaker thing. So we called it the L factor. And the reason was, there was a science fiction story, real quick, that was popular in the 90s that we, were keying off of. And it was called the X factor. And it was an astronaut in deep space gets captured by an alien race that put him in a menagerie, and they kind of telepathically linked, and he was like a zoo exhibit. And people were like, wow, they're watching this alien, and they got him captive in his nice little gilded cage. Well, he wanted out. There's no way for him to get out. So he started worshiping a paperclip or something, okay? What the heck's he doing? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, our species, when we're in captivity, we just give bad luck to our captors. You have bad luck. Well, anything that happened, they blamed him. And finally, after a couple of months or something, let him go! Let him go! It was the X factor in their head. They blamed him for everything that went to it. Sorry about this, but okay. The L factor. That's how they see us. They blame whatever problems they have, they blame on them damn libertarians. So we fed into that fear. So we keep pushing that. It's the L factor. L factor, liberty, the determining factor. We create a page that we already have the domains for decades. We put it up of all the innovations so you won't be afraid when it happens. Growing your own food. Making your own power. Looking at technology to solve a bunch of problems. And I'll give you an example. Peacekeeper is an application that on your phone, what you do is you include and you fill it out, and it has your neighbors, your friends, your family. So instead of dialing 911 and they come and kill your dog, you go, I have a medical emergency, I have an intruder alert, I have an abduction, I have a fire. So when you hit that, depending on how you set up your system, and say I've fallen and I can't get up, okay? You hit that, it notifies your closest friends and neighbors and family. So they know how to respond. They know the layout of your home. They know who's supposed to be there and not, and what dog not to shoot. Okay? So you get better, more compassionate, immediate help without involving the man. This is a threat to them. When they're trying to make you more afraid, why you need them. Sidekick is another one. When you do interface with officers and they stop you or come to your home, you just hit the button, boom, and it turns on both cameras and contacts an attorney that's on the system. Hi, officer, you have a reason to be talking to my client? Well, how can I help you? Let's walk this through, blah, 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 as it records it. Now, the incentive for the attorney to be in the system is because they pay gazillions of dollars for leads. Well, here they go, okay, they log in, and it takes the closest 40, 50 attorneys in the system, and they're ready, boom, they come up, and they're like, I'm here to help. They're sitting at their desk, they got nothing else to do, whatever, all of a sudden, okay, they're logged in, they're ready to go, as they're working, oh, then boom, here it comes. Mark J. Victor, hello. Lawyers love this. It's recorded, it's documented. They were there, you asserted your rights, you're recording the exchange. Between Peacekeeper, to keep you from calling in, the government, and Sidekick, to have legal representation right there when the government is in your face, between these two things, a whole bunch of fear is eliminated. It provides opportunities for us to be able to, live a life and not be in such fear. Also, not need to spend as much money. So there's a lot of things that we put on that. So I'm right now talking to some people, it's just kind of formulating, and the reason that I was motivated to consider this is because I know what's coming. It's going to be fear like you wouldn't believe. It's going to be afraid, and I want to try to not. And just have that love and that community. libertarians aren't against community. Community, here, do this, community all you want. I don't want to have to be forced to pay for somebody that's going to community me, you know? So if we do this, I think it's going to have an impact. But it has to include the ability to eat. And then what Chad's doing is, if you go and you look at, Bob Anderson has really pimped out his rig, and we're making some improvements. We're going to go over to see Chad's do improvements on, filtration process. It just keeps getting better. The plants get lusher. It's more productive. If we can do that, then just teach people, give them hope and inspiration, and get their little terrarium. He has little units you can put in your kitchen. The fear starts to go away. And these young people are all into this tech, man. I get that. Done. Next weekend, the Bitcoin Summit, this is for us, not for the kids. It's for it to be explained to us in a simple way how this technology is going to change the planet. If you understand, there was an article in November of '87 called From Crossbows to Cryptography. As young activists, we could see encryption, what it was going to do. We just needed powerful enough computers to make it go faster, make it more convenient. We understood back then what this meant. It meant that the man doesn't get to be the man anymore. The NSA surveillance of everything. Back then, we had to convince people that it was even possible. Now it's like it's everywhere. All of a sudden, everybody knows that they're doing it. We've been screaming this has been going on forever. Always assumed it. So now it's fact. Well, Chad, go ahead and come on. Chad Hudspeth, we met at a Prepper Fest a few years ago and immediately understood what he was doing. He was popularizing a technology to make it easy for people to just push a button, have the resources, make it go work in my yard right, not later. For someone to be able to package that, for someone that has resources, they don't have the time, they don't want to watch 15 gazillion YouTubes and whatever, and then all of a sudden, now people are supportive of him going and teaching. You want to send money to some developing country and poor kid that doesn't have food, how about you just send them one of his units and have a food production facility for an entire village? How about we do that? What the heck? Well, he's going to talk about that program. But I'm talking about the elimination of fear that's coming. And I want you guys to think about this. I got time to make the final decision whether I want to do it on the ballot or just as a write-in or whatever. Because what I'm looking for is just the ability to get the maximum attention with the least amount of effort and send them to a page that includes the inspiration from what things like Chad's going to tell you about. There's so many other things that we'll have up there. But it's just to eliminate the anxiety. Because that's what those that won't leave us alone need in order to thrive. They need you to be afraid. They need you to be concerned. They need you to turn to them for the solutions.
Ernie, before we go there, can I just ask you one question?
Too late. Go say it, man.
All right. Talking about fear, we've got an obvious, huge, massive national fear campaign now rolling through the media everywhere about this. Let's have mandatory vaccinations everywhere. Lifetime. Everybody. No exceptions.
No, we have a lot of videos and information be up on that, too.
What are we going to do with this?
It's fear.
I know it's fear, but how are we going to deal with it?
Information. There's a lot of information that you put up on vaccines and vaccinations and actual numbers and why all the kids at Disneyland got sick that were vaccinated, they didn't get vaccinated enough, and then they're blaming on blah, and then your kids can't, if we get one case of measles at a public school system here, and you're not vaccinated, all your kids got to go for 21 days and can't go to school and they go, okay, we'll just keep them home. They go, wait a minute, that's not what we want.
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to get at, how are we going to deal with when they're going to come to the city, Phoenix City Council
That's an individual decision.
Demand immediate decisions to force vaccinations?
Okay, I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to answer your question, then we're done with this because we're going to get to chat. Okay. Now's not the time.
All right.
When they started in 2009, when Obama did a level 6 World Health Organization pandemic that we're all going to die, they only go to level 5. They had to create another level just to scare you more. Okay? So they came out with a pandemic of, oh my God. What did we do? At our Freedom's Phoenix workshop downtown, we started mass producing signs. We got a lot of television, they came over to the home, they're interviewing me and all this stuff, and what it did is said, support first responders that say no to mandatory shots. And the point was, they were going to hit firemen, police, and healthcare workers first. You have to get vaccinated. So we were like, we're here to support the first cop, the first fireman that says, no, I'm not doing it. Boom. Mark's going to be the attorney. We got the PR. Let's rock and roll. We're talking to the unions. And that first guy, you saying there's not going to be a guy? Are you the union? Are you going to represent the rights of the individual to say, no, I don't want it? Are you? You're not? Well, we are. You're not even going to tell them we're going to help them? I mean, we made a big deal out of it. We made these signs, and we put them in front of fire departments and in front of the police departments. So we weren't really even doing it in hospitals. We just put them all in Tucson and Arizona. It made it all over the news, big, come down to the shop and videotape. Every time I got to do the rhetoric, this is where the culture thing comes in, I go, a lot of people argue about where government's role is and starts and stops. And some people would say at my property line, at my picket fence. Some people would say it's at the door and you're not allowed to come in without a warrant. And I think, hopefully, we can all agree that government intrusion would stop at my skin. That I own what's inside here. That I don't want forced introduction of lotions and potions and notions of the man sticking inside me and in my flesh injecting what they want in my body. That is my line. So blah 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 blah. I went on to that. I'll get to you in a second. That was what really all of a sudden went, damn. Well, a lot of the fire departments, starting with Gilbert and Chandler, took all those vaccines. They just sent them back to the county health and the state health department. When they started sending it back, they wouldn't do it. They gave up. It was over. And we found out that there was a pandemic plan that was put in under Napolitano nationally that they have. When the president declared a national emergency on health, which he did, I don't know if you guys remember this, it triggered the ability for them to force inoculate people. These checkpoints, when they have an entire level of mandatory health care under extreme DUIs. When you are convicted or arrested for extreme DUI multiple times or it's above a certain amount or whatever, you can have forced medical attention. You'd be forced into treatment or you got to go in a hospital or whatever. That layer of government, that ability to force you into that's the layer that they're using for these vaccination things. As they're strapping you down, taking your blood, at a DUI checkpoint and so on, when they go up and they say, and in the law, we published all this on Freedom's Phoenix. In the law, it says that, you can do conscientious objector. You can be, Amish or whatever and say, I don't want to get inoculation. Okay, get on the FEMA bus. They had to quarantine you. This is all stuff that we exposed. Jan Brewer's running for office. She's down at the Arizona State Fair. Drew Phillips and Jack go up there with their video camera. Hey, are you going to be enacting enforcement? They were doing freedom of information requests. They went to 7 o'clock at night. I get a call from the assistant director of Arizona Department of Health saying, okay, Ernie, here's the documents you wanted. The documents are supposed to be signed by the governor of Arizona, Napolitano. They put a cover sheet. It was the signature of the governor of New Jersey. Like you just inserted that. She didn't want to say, what the heck is you guys doing? What they did is they didn't know that we knew this. What they had done, any links from the Department of Health, it never made it to this document. Oh, and it's broke. Oh, and it's not there. Oh, and well, we knew it was there. We already had the link. And I wanted to demonstrate them covering it up. So we did. We got it. We put it out. So don't think I don't know. I know.
Oh my God.
They're going to do whatever they're going to do and justify however they want to justify it. But that's not the point. The point is don't be afraid. Look, this is not the truth. Let me tell you the truth about vaccines. I got all kinds of videos on just vaccines and vaccinations. So people that go to not be afraid, liberty to determine factor, and ask about anything, there will be some information there on the other side of why they shouldn't be afraid what the real issue is. It's fear. There it is. We got to get to Chad. Go ahead.
This will be quick. Reference Bitcoins. What's to stop the treasonous trained seals of the District of Corruption to pass a law saying this is in competition with the Federal Reserve notes and it's illegal?
Oh, don't think they haven't already made that claim. That's why. All right.
What's he talking about?
Okay, I'm gonna explain. Dang it, we gotta get to Chad, man. Okay, I'm gonna do. Yeah, go to the Bitcoin summit.
Yeah, Bitcoin.
Silk Road, drug dealing some bitch, you know, they all of a sudden a couple of weeks ago, guilty, 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 Ross Ulbricht, you're guilty of running a criminal enterprise and doing Bitcoin, selling drugs, and people kind of whatever, you're not allowed. The same day, the New York Department of Financial Services came out with a proposal, because that's where all the banks are in Manhattan, saying, nope, you got to have Bitcoin license and government approval to be able to do any interchange between Bitcoin and the legacy banking system. A lot of people don't understand is Bitcoin is not dependent on the banking system. They want to use it and interface with it and do our licensing or whatever piece. That's not the point. The point is that Bitcoin is international, worldwide, and it doesn't matter. They don't care. They're trying to make encryption illegal. When you had that shooting in Paris, what's the first thing that happened? Dave Cameron, United Kingdom Prime Minister, comes up and says, you know what? See? If they didn't have encrypted secret email, we would have known about this, and private encryption of the people being able to be private, not allowed, illegal, now we don't want it to happen anymore. Oh, well, hell, there's a solution. So, of course they don't want encryption. The problem is that Bitcoin doesn't matter. They don't care. It just operates out here anyway. It's only when you exchange it for dollars or dollars for Bitcoin to where you have some exchange. So, the same day that Ross Ulbricht, they announced all these restrictions, at the same time, there's a guy named Jim Rickards, I think he reports financial news for Forbes and Bloom, whatever the hell. The same day, he has an article, it's called SOCOM, United States Special Operations Command, that has the cyber units of Navy SEALs, Green Beret, Ranger, blah, 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 all these, special teams, operating in conjunction with the paramilitary units of the CIA. This is the article. Why? Because we got to get them Bitcoin terrorists, because Bitcoin is terrorist in its nature. Really? How? Because we can't see it. Well, obviously, if we can't see it, it's terrorist. See my point? Fear. It was a psyop. They know they can't, they can go shut down some server or some app, but Bitcoin is in like this cloud on people's computers. It's just, there is no getting it. That's the point. So they have to use fear. They will make, what makes stop them from passing a law? What makes you think they haven't already? You have to have things that are outside. They're going to have to say, peacekeeper, it's illegal. Why? That doesn't mean they're not going to do it. They're going to try and make you afraid. This is exactly what I'm talking about. It is that fear, Russ, that you demonstrated right there. Perfect example. But what if they don't care? See my point? When you get the younger gen, they go, yeah, they'll be stupid and did, and it doesn't matter. Well, what if they go, yeah, don't care? I'm not afraid. Fear is the mind killer. And whenever we go to groups like this, they call them coolers. Who's the cooler? Guy goes, yeah, did you get a permit? Are you sure? Did you get a permission slip? You want to make certain that you got... No. I went through this during the Levolution. It's a group like this, and that table over there would have 5 or 6 young guys, and they go, well, we want to make signs, and we're not thinking, do you need a permit to give a finger to the man? Where do you get that permit? So it's an attitude. And that's, and I tell you, Russ, not to pick on you, but... that's exactly why I want to do this campaign, for that reason.
Well, I set you up here.
I appreciate it. But you see my point, right? You start to understand why I would do this. That's when they win. When you start the first question like that, it's already over. You lost before you started. So I want to change that. And Chad's going to help me, because I see the production of food easily, abundantly, and water, and just a demonstration of no fear. And we can use this technology to help people in need without a lot of effort or expense on our part. And Chad's going to tell us about it. Chad Hudspeth from Endless Food Systems.
Well, how many of you have heard of aquaponics, or you have an idea of what it is? Okay, so a little over half the crowd. That's good. For those of you that don't know what it is, we're going to cover that quickly and briefly, but before we get into kind of some of this stuff, I want to talk about just for a second. There were 2 guys that came to see me about 2 years ago, and I've been manufacturing these systems now for almost 3 years, and they came to see me, and right about that time in my life, I told my wife, it's like, there's 2 countries that I would really like to go and check out. I'd like to go and see if maybe going to the Dominican Republic would be a possible place, if things get really rough in America. And the other place was Ecuador. And I thought, it'd be kind of cool to just go down to Dominican and see what it's like. It's easy to get dual citizenship there. Ecuador is the same way. It's really easy to get citizenship in Ecuador. And so this guy comes to my door and knocks on my door, and he's really a guy that puts groups together. He finds people groups that need help around the world. He finds churches or other organizations that want to help people, and he puts them together. And his name is Eric. And so Eric Malay, he says, well, I'm going to Dominican Republic this spring, and I'd really like for you to come with me because we need somebody to build one of these aquaponics systems there. And oh, by the way, we're also going to Ecuador the next fall or whatever, and we want you to come there too. So of all the countries on the face of the earth that I wanted to go to, I got to go to within the next 12 months, and we built systems there. I didn't know I was going to be able to do a PowerPoint, or I would have put some pictures in here of what's going on, but you can see them on Ernie's website, freedomsphoenix.com. You can go there, and I think you've got my page or a link to my stuff on there, and you can see the pictures of what's going on with the Ecuador system.
I got a hotspot there if you want to go to the internet.
Oh, okay. We may do that in a second.
Go ahead and talk, and I'll take care of it.
All right. So I can pull that up, you can see. But aquaponics to me is really about freedom. When you can produce your own food, you really can control a lot of things. You can control what's going into your body. In America, that's the biggest thing. For people in America, growing your own food is not about money. It's not about, food's 90% of my income. No. In fact, food is the cheapest in America as anywhere in the world. I think if you cut out going to restaurants like this and just look at actual food costs and what people spend at the store, it's 6% of our income. 6%. It's the lowest in the world. But when you go to places like Haiti, places like South America, the poor countries, food can be 50 or 60% of a person's income. That's, it's a very expensive part just to survive for these people. And so if we could go in there and give them relief, give them a way to produce food, economically it helps them tremendously get to the next level. Here in America, it's totally a different mindset. It's not about saving money, producing your own food, which you can, but it's about health, and it's about freedom, and it's about not having to eat, insecticides and eat the pesticides and the herbicides and the GMOs that's going into our food, and most people don't even know we're there. I'll just share one little snippet with you. Most people, they think that, if you eat a lot of salads, that's healthy, right? You eat a lot of vegetables. Well, does anybody know by the EPA's own standards, what is the highest level of fluoride that we can have in our water? Do you know? They have a limit. Does anybody know what that limit is? 2 parts per million. 2 ppm is probably what's in our city water right now. Probably what's in this water right now is 2 parts per million of fluoride. Now, some of you may believe that fluoride is good for your body. I would encourage you to do a little bit deeper study into that, and you'll probably switch your opinion. But do you know what the EPA standards are for lettuce and fluoride? Does anybody know what the maximum amount of fluoride you can have in lettuce is? 180 ppm. 180. And most foods and most vegetables are in the mid-70s is the EPA's maximum standard for fluoride. Why? Why is this so? Well, fluoride, hydrofluorosilicic acid is sprayed on vegetables because it's a wonderful bug killer. There is no bug that can live in the presence of this chemical. What happens is over time, a year or two, it gets into the soil and the plant takes it up systemically. So it's inside the plant, it's not on the surface of the leaf. They can't get it out. And so there's lobbies and there's some power groups, and they've got the laws passed to where now it really doesn't matter how much fluoride is in the food. It only matters what's in the water, because that can, it's a bigger subject. But anyway, that's a side note. I think what it boils down to is it's important that we know what's in our food. It's important that we have the ability, if we want to grow our own food. And a garden is definitely a great choice. But the problem with a garden in Phoenix is it's pretty tough. It's tough to grow on the ground here. Why? Of course, because of the dryness and the heat. The soil here, if you're on a horse property where you've been watering your grass for years, this is not going to be your problem. But for most people here in Phoenix and in the valley, the soil is dead. It's dead because it's dry. There's not enough moisture in there. There's no microbes. There's no earthworms. You go and dig a 5-foot hole, you're probably not going to find a single earthworm in there. If there's no worms, if there's no organic matter for the worms to eat and bacteria to survive, then there's not going to be any life in the soil. Now, you can take that dirt and you can put life in it, but it's going to take you 3 or 4 years to make that happen. So people that come here and they start a garden, and they're like, and I've talked to people at trade shows and things, and they're like, man, I've been trying to grow a garden for like 3 years, and finally it's just now beginning to do some good. Well, because it takes that long to get the soil active again. Most people think that dirt is what's important to grow plants. It's not. The dirt is just a place for things to live. We don't grow in our systems in aquaponics and hydroponics. You don't have dirt. You have soil. You have rocks, or what we call clay pebbles. And then we also grow directly in the water.
Excuse me, Chad. I got it online, but I don't know why it's not.
Okay.
Translated.
I'll mess with it in a minute. Okay.
Anyway, it's online.
Can we go back to my PowerPoint here?
Yeah.
Bring that up, yeah. Okay. What we got to do is the soil or the water or the pebbles is just it's like a plate. I can put anything on my plate that I want, right? The plate, it's not important what the plate is. The plate could be aluminum or ceramic or paper. It doesn't matter. It's just a holding place for the things that I'm going to put there and eat. Exactly the same thing with plants. Plants don't care if it's dirt. They don't care if it's rocks. They don't care if it's water. All they're looking for is what's there that I can consume. And that's the microbes and the minerals and things that's in the water or the sort of soil or the pebbles. So let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to go kind of fast because we don't have a lot of time. Normally this is about an hour-long presentation. I have 7 more of these where we drill down into a lot of detailed topics. But this is just kind of an overview. It's going to give you a real good introduction. I'm Chad Hudspeth. I'm the founder of Endless Food Systems. We manufacture plug-and-play kits. Our kits are freight shipped to your door. You take it off the pallet and you fill it up with water and you've got an aquaponics system. That was my dream, and we finally made that happen. And Ernie got one. We built a system for him a year and a half ago. We've made a lot of improvements since then, and they are fantastic. We were on Doomsday Preppers. I apologize, but we were on that show and lots of other stuff. We've had a lot of new press since this. But let's go back to Grandma's garden for a second. You know, when I was growing up, I would go to Grandma's house probably every other day or so and eat a meal there for something. And her food tasted really, really good. Now, she was a great cook, mind you. But there's another reason I think now that I understand why that food tasted so good. I lived in rural Texas. The closest grocery store was about 45 minutes away. And so we just didn't go to the store for a whole lot of stuff. You go to the store maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, and you get the basic things you need. Everything else we would grow ourselves, and that's just the way we live. In fact, where I live specifically, it was 6 miles, mostly dirt road, just to get to a town that had 1 gas station. So we just didn't, we grew all of our stuff, And I think that because we lived like that, because we ate like that, we were a lot healthier. And I think one of the reasons why is because of a factor that when you're growing in rich soil or in a rich environment for plants, there's one element that we had that's not in our food today, and that's a thing called minerals. Minerals, unpleasable. Most of the food that we go to the store and buy right now is going to be grown in soil over and over and over and over every year, and they use 3 types of fertilizer. Anybody know what they are? NPK. That's what they put on. Is that what our bodies need? Well, a little bit, but what do we really? We need like over 60 minerals to really support a healthy immune system. If we don't have those minerals, we're probably going to be we're going to have a lot of problems is what we're going to have. And that's where we are as a country. And what's interesting is actually, if you look at poor countries, but that grow a lot of their own food out of necessity, they're healthier than we are.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
At least poor countries that can't, they don't have two nickels to rub together, are healthier in general because they're eating mineral-rich food. and we could be too. So growing your own food, having an aquaponics system empowers you to be able to do two very important things. To make sure you're not eating a lot of junk, and make sure that you are eating a lot of trace minerals and putting in your body a lot of the good things. That's the main thing. So what is a fish-powered garden? Fish-powered garden, I like that term better than aquaponics. I've learned over the years that when I say, well, this is an aquaponics system or something like at trade shows, people walk by and they say, oh, that's a hydroponic system. I say, no, it's aquaponics. It goes in one ear and out the other. Most people, they don't really put it together, the difference between hydroponics and aquaponics. The difference is that aquaponics is a fish-powered garden. The fish are the element that really differentiate it. Well, what is that aquaponics? And it's the combination of aquaculture with hydroponics. Aquaculture and hydroponics have the same problems. About once a week, you need at least a 30 to 40% water exchange in an aquaculture system. Why? Because the ammonia levels, the waste of the fish builds up so high, the fish will start to die. So you have to pull, there's really nothing you can do other than dump that water out and put fresh water back in so that your fish don't die. So most aquaculture systems, that's how they operate. It's just a lot easier. You can filter some of it, but ultimately you're going to have to dump a large portion of that water out, so they're not very water efficient. Hydroponics have the same exact problem. Every week you got to dump at least 20, if not 40% of your water out every week because it becomes too polluted. In hydroponics, you have to put all the food in the system in the water for the plants so that they can survive. After a while, it becomes too polluted, and if you don't exchange with fresh water, the plants will start dying and suffer. So you have a similar problem. When we combine the two together, we wind up with a thing called aquaponics. That's where we have fish. They are in a tank. They're producing waste. We have a water pump that brings that up, and it flows through a bed of gravel. And what's inside that gravel is our third thing that we're growing. Does anybody know what that third thing is? So we're growing fish plants and bacteria. Bacteria is really the key that processes the fish waste and turns it into plant food. Yes, sir?
Is city water suitable water with all the junk in it?
Yes and no. Can you grow with city water? Yeah. The main thing is chlorine. If you fill up a system from day one with chlorine in it, nothing's going to live. Everything's going to die. But you can let your pumps run, and after 3 to 4 days, that chlorine will evaporate out and burn off, and you're good to go. But the fluoride's still going to be there. So you would have a 2 part per million, but that's better than 180 ppm. If you wanted to be totally pure, then you could have water hauled in that's coming from a well that you know is not treated. You have to, even hauled water is not, it could be city water, it's the same thing. So you got to kind of do your research and find out what that water source is.
What about distilled water?
Distilled water would probably be totally fine. And RO water is fine. You can get an RO water machine for like $150. Now it's a small amount, but yeah. You know what? I'm going to have a time at the end for questions. And because a lot of the things I'm going to cover is going to answer some of your questions, and then I'll try to cut it short here at the end so we can talk just a little bit.
We will go until we're done.
Okay.
We'll try and shoot for 10 minutes. Never ends.
Okay. So this is a very simplified version of aquaponics. This is it's kind of like golf. You know, golf is real easy. You just hit the ball in the hole. That's pretty easy. But actually doing it's a little harder than that. But that's aquaponics. Very simple in nature, but it can get more complex as we start looking at some of the other factors. This is a real life little aquaponic system. This is what we call an Eden. It's like an herb garden. We have these in our house. It's like a 2-foot diameter. You have your fish tank right here. I like to show this because it's a very simple illustration of an operating system. This is a 20-gallon fish tank. We have goldfish in there, or mollies or something like that. A water pump is bringing the water up right here. And so it's overflowing like a fountain 24/7. The water flows through this bed of clay pebbles. These are balls of clay that's been heated up in a kiln, and they become rock hard. It's just like a roof tile, and they're very porous inside, and that's the reason we really like these pebbles. The porousness allows the bacteria to go inside. We have a lot of surface area for the bacteria to live on. That's what they need, is surface area they can attach themselves to and then process that fish waste. So that's what's going on in the pebbles. And so the bacteria are converting the fish waste over to a nitrite, then to a nitrate, and the plants absorb that as food. That's the system. This is a larger kit that we built. This is 2 gravel beds. So we've got a pebble bed on the left and the right. This is a fish tank in the middle. We have a water pump that brings the water up and it dumps into both beds. The water's filtered through the pebble bed. Then it flows down into these raft beds. That's basically just a hydroponic type of growing where the plant sits and the roots sit directly in water. And we can have a bank of these. We can have like 5 more of these tanks. You know, there, all the way down 20 feet long. We can have these big runs of hydro tanks, hydro beds. And the plants are just floating on the water. They just live happy. They got all the things, all the food they need in the water right there. We return at the end, we return the water back to the pump again, and the process starts over. So it just runs 24/7, flowing that fish water through the pebbles, processing it with bacteria, and down through the grow bed and through the hydro beds. That's the system in operation right there. These are the floating rafts. Those are the pebble beds. Most people ask, well, what can you grow? And a better question is, what can you not grow? Because pretty much everything will grow in aquaponics. Carrots turned out deformed, so we don't grow them. Potatoes don't do well, but everything else does. Potatoes, for some reason, get about half size and they die.
What we're doing is we create what's called a wicking bed that is soil that can do it, and we are connecting that right now with this system. We got about half finished, and we'll be able to do root crops.
Where do the minerals come from?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No problem.
start the questions.
The minerals you introduce them, and the easiest way. So there's 3 inputs to the system. You got to put water in the system, but it's about, well, I think that's the next slide. Yeah, here we go. It's about 90% more efficient than a soil garden because your water is constantly being recycled. The only water that you're going to lose is to evaporation and transpiration. Transpiration is the plants actually using that water. So that's all you're going to use. The minerals come from, so our inputs to the system are water, a little bit of electricity, a very small amount of electricity, and the third thing is fish food. We have to feed our fish. Now you can grow your own plants and feed it back to your fish again, but at some point you do need to kind of inoculate the system or add trace minerals to it. And it's very, very inexpensive and it's very easy. Ernie uses lava rock, and there's already a lot of minerals in the lava rock, so he probably won't need to add anything to his system for a long time. But the easiest thing to do is kelp powder. So if you can get a pound of kelp powder for like $6, that would last you years and years and years. And you just put a pinch of that in your pebble beds, maybe every 3 or 4 weeks or so, and you're going to have loads of trace minerals in your system. So that's where they come from. You have to introduce them. There's a couple other little things, but I don't want to get too technical. In an aquaponic system, plants grow a lot faster. The reason for that is they have a constant supply of water. They're never lacking for water. It's always available. When they want to drink, they're going to drink. Versus in the soil, watering is one of the hardest things because you got to get it just right. You don't want to overwater or underwater. And so it's difficult to get your garden to produce perfectly. With this, it's automatic. The roots are down in the water all the time, so it's not a big deal. You can plant a lot more densely because the plant's roots are uptaking nutrition from the water. They don't have to spider out and set these 10-foot runners out to find the minerals and the food that they need. So you can put the plants a lot closer together. And this also is a factor in why the plants grow so fast. They're not stressed. Everything is like super easy. It'd be like, sitting at your house and somebody just bringing you food all day long, and you're just sitting there. You don't have to go out and do anything. Probably cause a little bit of overweightness, but for is 100% organic by necessity. I think that you're going to see the word organic replaced in the next decade with the word aquaponically grown. Why? Because organic, that word has really been manipulated a lot. And so when we buy something, when we buy something that says organic, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's really pure. Aquaponics, on the other hand, if I start spraying something on my plants, it's going to kill my fish. If I start doing something with the fish chemically, it's going to kill my plants. So for the two of them to work together, it has to stay real natural. If it doesn't, you're going to kill something, or you're going to kill your bacteria. Oh my gosh, that's the last thing you want to do is kill your bacteria. That's the engine of the whole machine. Elevated grow beds, so the grow beds are off the ground. You don't have to bend over. It's easy to get to everything. This also helps a lot with the insect problems. Because they're not in the ground, you totally eliminate all the soil-borne pests and problems that you can have in the soil. Being off the ground, you just have a limited number of insects. Now, you're still going to have bug issues that you got to watch out for, but it's a little easier. Watering and fertilization is totally automatic, so you don't really have to worry about watering or fertilizing your plants. Very easy to maintain. These things truly are. You set them up, and it's a 5-minute-a-day job. And then I spend about probably 30 minutes to an hour, one day a week, where I actually go through and I really check my plants really close. I'll pick off dead stuff. I'll plant new stuff. So once a week, you need to take a little time. Now I found that if you're willing to put in, 2 hours a week or more, you're going to have a primo system. Things are going to really rock. But on a daily basis, you just go out and feed your fish, make sure that everything's operating right. And it's kind of like your car. When you're driving in your car right now, if the window is just a little bit cracked, are you going to know? Yeah. You know your car, you know how it sounds, you get in there. If something is just a little bit off, you're going to know. These are the same way. You get to know them, you walk out there, if something is not right, you're going to instantly know, oh, there's what? Water, the pump doesn't sound right, the water doesn't look right. You're going to know very quickly something's not right, so they're really easy to maintain. This is one of our larger systems, and just to give you an idea of what can take place, this is a 12-foot wide by 20-foot long greenhouse. So that is, 12 times 20 is 240 square feet. So 240 square feet. If you manage that really well, that's going to produce between about 1,200 and 1,400 pounds of vegetables a year. A lot. Probably about as much as most families normally eat. So this could take the place of your vegetables. Now, what about fish? People always ask me, well, how many fish is it going to produce? The fish are a small part. The fish, we just want their waste. But for every 1 pound of fish that we grow in the system, we're going to wind up with anywhere from 10 to 15 pounds of vegetables. So it's a lot more about the vegetables than it is about the fish. But with a, say, a 275-gallon fish tank right here, I can grow out between 40 to 80 pounds of fish a year. So I can harvest a 1-pound fish every 2 weeks or so and never run out of fish. Yes, sir?
Does this have to sit in the sun or be under a shade?
Can you grow in Phoenix? That's a big question. Yeah, absolutely you can. For Phoenix, you need shade cloth. You need shade cloth of about 70%, and I put mine on probably late April or May. And I leave it on until probably October. Then I'll pull it off, and I do have it in the greenhouse. You don't have to have a greenhouse for Phoenix, but if you don't have a greenhouse, then in the wintertime, you'll need to cover some of your plants if you don't want them to freeze, because we'll get a couple of freezes. And you would need probably some tank heaters to keep your water temperature above 50. So if your water temp gets below 50, your bacteria is going to really slow down. At about 40 degrees, your bacteria start to die off. So you got to keep your water above that temperature.
And at 54.5 degrees, sustained over more than a week, the fish die.
The top tilapia, if you're growing tilapia.
I know this.
Where does the bacteria come from?
The bacteria, they naturally show up. It's like if we took a tank of water and put it out in the parking lot, would algae grow? Yes, it would. Where does it come from? I have no idea, but it just shows up.
Well, can't you just go get it from the arborist group, the septic tank bacteria? Just introduce that?
Yes.
Well,
you
what
can
we do
find
is
it.
just get like a gallon jug from another aquaponic and just pour it in there and we're done.
It's not going to help you
Just
that
that
much. It's not that big of a deal. It's only going to cut about 2 weeks off the cycling time. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, where do you suggest you get the fish?
Yeah. Fish are actually...
Craigslist.
Craigslist is probably the easiest, cheapest place to go. So somebody's always got fish on Craigslist they're trying to get rid of. Right now, for me, one of the guys that works for me full-time, he has a really nice setup. His system is he's got tons and tons of fish. So when we sell a system now, he usually sells them some of his fish. Fish is not a big deal. And there's a lot of different kinds of fish. In fact, I think we're going to talk about that.
Well, that's one thing, but, I have the system, but I don't really know what to do with it. I need hands-on people to show me, because I have ADHD, so I don't focus well.
The answer's always yes, it's just how much.
I can help you really, really easy. Just give me your email address at the end. I'll send you some worksheets. And you just follow those worksheets every day, and it'll be good. Production amounts, we already talked about a little bit. So we went to Ecuador July 1st, 2014. Now Ecuador's a pretty cool place. I don't know if you've ever been there. But we were just driving down the road, and here was this waterfall. This was not like an attraction that people go to. This was like 100 miles, from nowhere. And the guy was like driving 100 miles an hour in the taxi, and I'm like, I gotta get a picture of that, So, and there were lots of them. But anyway, this is a system that we built down there. I purposely didn't take anything except a couple of specialty tools just for comfort. A couple of hole saws and things, and electric drills. But I didn't take any equipment down because I wanted to teach these people how to build a system using what we could find locally. And so that's what we did. They had an abundance of these IBC totes. They're pretty much available worldwide. So they had a bunch of them. Those are 600-gallon water tanks, the blue tanks off to the side. We cut the totes up and put it all on a level surface. We painted the outsides green so the algae wouldn't, sun wouldn't come through and grow algae all in them. This bank right up here is the gravel beds. So these are 2 fish tanks. One feeds to the next, and this one overflows and splits down the 2 sides. Now for these people in Ecuador, this is a whole other hour-long topic that I talk about. Is a different type of grow beds, but I elected to use what's called constant flow. We don't have bell siphons or anything like that. The water just constantly flows through this gravel bed, and it comes in here and it exits right here. And on the other side of that, buried into the gravel, is like a piece of pipe with notches cut in it so the water can flow through, but the gravel can't. So these are just constantly flowing water through them all the time. The only disadvantage to a constant flow system like this is that at least once a week or every 3 or 4 days, you need to go over there where the water's coming in and with your hand or something kind of move things around, because you don't want the water to create a track like a river and then it doesn't get anywhere else in the bed. So you have to break those tracks manually. This is the very end. Everybody's excited. We're all planting seeds. The system took about 3.5 days to build. This is the other side. This is the raft bed. So our water exits the gravel, and then it goes into these raft beds. It flows down each side like this. Shoot, I thought I had a big picture of it. Let me go back and see. Okay, so the water overflows, goes through the gravel beds, it goes underground over here, and then the water flows through these raft beds, and then we step down because of the elevation of the ground. Right here, I ran it through a vortex, which aerates the water. I didn't use any air pumps in this. There's not a single air pump except for the fish tanks over here. There's no air being pumped into the hydroponic beds. And you can see There's their production, and right now today, they're getting between 60 and 80 pounds of produce a week out of the system. Yes, sir.
What does that system cost in US dollars?
We spent about $2,000 on this system, and of course we converted the currency when we got to Ecuador, and we built it for about $2,000 there in Ecuador. That was their first harvest. I want you to see the date. That's September the 18th. We built this system. I was back here July the 4th. My plane came in July the 3rd. So from July the 3rd, October, November, well, no. July, August, September. So this is just a little under 60 days, and we got food. That's the team. That's the main team. They helped me build them. That's Eric right there in the middle, the guy that kind of puts the trips together. And one of the reasons that I wanted to talk with you today, and Ernie's been generous to let me share this information, is I'm going to Peru with the same guy, with the same, a lot of these same people actually. And in fact, that guy right there in the yellow shirt is from Peru. He drove up from Peru to Ecuador just to see us do this, and he is so excited and fired up that we're coming to his barrio in Peru. And so it takes, what we've learned is that when you want to go in and help a people group, the most important thing that you got to have is at least one, if not many, local people that really want you there and that are really excited about what you're bringing. You may notice I didn't talk about Dominican Republic much. We built a much more elaborate, much more expensive system in the Dominican Republic. When we left, it was in prime condition, and 30 days later, it was doing pretty good. 90 days later, it was stagnant, and there's nothing growing in it today. So we wasted $3,500 going to Dominican Republic. Why? Because we learned that you can't come in and say, you need this, and we're going to give you this. Nobody cares. What you got to have is you got to have somebody on the other end that wants to receive. They want what you have. And when you get an invitation like Joler, his name is Joler, he's begging for us to come. So I know that when we come down there, his system's going to look like this or better, and it's going to impact his community, and he's going to take that knowledge and build. Really what we're going to do in Peru is we're going to teach people how to do this. It's not, we don't want to come in and just hear, we're going to do it for you, and now you're dependent on us. No, we want to teach people how to do it so that they can spread this all over the place. You know, they're talking about population of the earth is going to be whatever, 9 billion and all this, and it's not going to be, there's not enough land, and there's not enough food, and how are we going to feed? That's all the fear thing. We can all of us, if you have 200 square feet of space in your backyard, or a bedroom or two that you're not using, you can grow all your own food. You could be totally self-sufficient if you had to be. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to have ice cream, but you could have the basic food if you needed it. This system will do that. These type of setups will do that. So I would encourage you, if you can, to support us, our trip to Peru. I do have a fundraising page on Ernie's website about the Peru trip, so I would encourage you to go on there and take a look. I'm trying to raise money to build the system down there, and the airfare is not cheap either. But anyway, this picture was taken about 90 days after we put the system up, so you can see the growth on everything. The water that we put in the system came from a local river, so, you know, it wasn't, it had plenty of bacteria in it, which was probably a good thing. Yeah. What kind of fish can you grow? Here in Phoenix, you got to stick to hot water fish that can handle hot water. And tilapia is usually the choice because tilapia can handle up to 105-degree water before they start to die. My system, the last 3 summers, the hottest that my water ever got was 96 degrees. Because it's not the air temperature, it's the water temperature. 96 is as hot as it got. My tilapia did great. But what you do have to do is watch out in the wintertime that you don't drop below 50, really 55. 55 is the coldest. If you wanted a more rounded fish and you don't want to have to heat your tank, go with catfish, go with sunfish, go with brim, something like that. That's really easy fish. They can handle hot water, they can handle cold water. They don't grow as fast. Tilapia is going to be one of the fastest growing fish. one of the easiest to grow fish. They just don't have any problems, any diseases or anything like that to speak of. So they're a very easy, fast-growing fish. What kind of plants? We kind of already talked about that. Pretty much everything. It works for creative things. This is probably the best place in the whole world, just about, besides Ecuador, to grow. Electricity, small or large, our system uses about the same amount of power, 45 watts. We have one air pump and one water pump, and that's it. So you know what a 45 watt light bulb consumes? That's what these systems consume. So that is a limitation. And when we look to go to places like Peru or Miramar is another place we go, there's certain places we really can't go because it's just the conditions aren't right. I have an opportunity, I could go to Haiti in July, but I'm choosing not to go to Haiti because the government is so oppressive there. They'll just come in and take whatever we build. So it's kind of a waste. I'd love to go and help those people, but we're really not able to help those people. There's other places. I had one of the guys that works for me went to Uganda, and the difficulty down there is the electricity. There's just not really any, where he was at, where they were working, there was just not, the electricity was so intermittent, and it just wasn't a good way to do it. We do have a way to do these things manually, and so if somebody was interested and they wanted to go and do this with no electricity at all, then it's not that difficult to set up a separate tank that's a higher elevation than your whole system, and you manually pump that water every day, or maybe even twice a day, up into that big tank and let it trickle down. So you can do it manually. And there is a guy, a friend of mine in Florida, and he does a lot of these in Africa, way out in the middle of nothing, and they take a mule or a horse or a cow, and they've got a little pump system they created. The cow will go in a circle and basically provide the power to pump the water. They pump it up to a big tank and just let it trickle down. They do that every day.
Have you tried solar?
Oh yeah, solar will definitely work. Yeah, but but it's still expensive, So especially if we're looking at going out in the boondocks, where are these people going to get a solar panel? Where are they going to get a battery? And the battery's going to die in 3 or 4 years. They got to get another one. It's oh, for here, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, Bob Anderson, his whole system is solar.
Yeah.
We ran ours on solar when I feel like it.
It's not a big deal. After I'll do a talk, a lot of people come up to me and they're like, now really, how hard is this? This has got to be pretty difficult. It's really not. It's as hard as you want to make it. It's kind of like back to golf. You can make golf really hard if you want. You can go to all the classes and spend thousands of dollars, or you can just go out and have a good time and play. And that's aquaponics. You can have a good time and have success. If you want to really, really research it out and figure out about, potassium and magnesium and measure your iron, you can do all that if you want to. Your system will probably operate a little bit better. But hey, it'll probably work pretty good without doing any of that stuff. So it's a pretty hands-off way to grow. How much maintenance is involved? Not very much. When it comes to maintenance, the main thing is to keep your lines cleaned out because you're pumping and moving fish food, and it's going to build up in the lines. And so about every 6 months, I'll take like a water hose, with some pressure, and from the wall of your house and shoot it through those lines and just blow out the fish waste about every 6 months. And then your water pump, it's got a little plastic cover you pop off of there, and I'll spray that out about every 3, 4, 5 months. I'll clean my pump off, and that's really pretty much it when it comes to maintenance. What are some more advantages to aquaponics? What's control over your food, the control of the quality and the supply. It's not having to consume the GMOs. It's not having to consume the insecticides and herbicides. I teach this to a lot of different people groups, so it's kind of funny. You guys are way beyond where most people are. Most people have never heard of a GMO before that I'm talking to, so I have to cover these things. Back to the vitamins and minerals. I got a whole class where all I talk about is vitamins and minerals, and it's my favorite class that I teach. It's an hour long, and we really drill down into how vitamins and minerals work in our bodies. And but I'll throw this little snippet out there to you. Does anybody know what ascorbic acid is? Vitamin C. That's what we've been told, right? But to take vitamin C and call it ascorbic acid would be like me handing you a steering wheel and saying, here's your car. It really can't work. Ascorbic acid is just one little part, one little small piece. All the ascorbic, 96, 97% of all the ascorbic acid comes from one factory. I think it's in New Jersey. It's labeled under a whole lot of different names, and you pay a whole lot more for it here and a whole lot less over here. But it all comes from the same place, and it's all man-made synthetic. Well, there's a guy named Albert Gintz, I believe was his name. In the 1930s, he did a study with scurvy, and he found out that there was no amount of ascorbic acid that he could give a person and cure their scurvy. But he could feed them just a small amount of potatoes or carrots or any kind of vegetable and cure that scurvy. Why? It wasn't that it was so much of a vitamin C deficiency, but it was the vitamin C acting in concert with all the other minerals and things that was in the food, a complete food. That could cure the scurvy. So when we're taking vitamin C as ascorbic acid, it's not really doing that much for us. It probably does a little bit, but when we eat a mineral-rich food, when we have a lettuce that's been grown in a system rich in trace minerals, oh, that's a superfood, man. We're like supercharging our system. So that's why it's important. These are some of our full-size kits. We are, as far as I know, the only manufacturer of a plug-and-play system in America right now. I'd love for it to stay that way, but hey. So I would encourage you. Endless Food Systems is our website. And what is that next slide? Yeah. So I'll open it up to questions now, I guess.
Where's your showroom?
Oh, we're pretty good.
Question here.
I've recently moved. Okay, we had a office warehouse over at Deer Valley Air Park, and I've just moved my whole manufacturing process. I just got a house right over here with a massive shop in the back, so I just didn't want to pay the rent for a shop when I had a shop. So I don't have a showroom anymore, but what I do have is I have a partner hydroponic depot at I-17 in Peoria. They have one of our small systems in there. We just changed it out with a new design, some new things that we've changed. And then I have another system at Horses Health, which is at 101 and Cave Creek. And I teach classes there. Our next class is March the 28th, so if you guys want to come to March the 28th, I think we're going to be talking... I think we're going to be talking about water quality and cycling. So basically, starting the system up and how to keep your water levels correct. That's March 28th at Horses Health. It should be on our website, endlessfoodsystems.com. And then, of course, at my house, anybody's welcome if you'll just give me a call ahead of time. I'll be happy to show you our system at my house. It's right close to here. It's like 1 minute away. I have a small Genesis 24 there, and I'm probably going to be putting in a big system pretty soon. And then one of the guys that works for me, Aaron, he has a big system at his house, and if you want to give us a call and you want to go see his system, he'll show up to you anytime. And he's producing, actually, he's about to get into microgreens. We're about to take this to the next level, and I'm going to develop a way to grow microgreens with the aquaponic water. So we're testing all of that right now.
What's microgreens?
Oh, buddy, that's like the next level in supercharged food. It's because we're using aquaponic water, it's mineral rich and perfect. We sprout our seedlings, and then microgreens are when you harvest at about 3 or 4 inches tall, and it's beets, it's radishes, it's all different kind of broccoli.
Oh yeah,
But-
I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I was kind of reading some of that.
Yeah, as a sprout, it's got tons of flavor and
Yeah.
tons of nutrition.
Yeah, I already kind of read some of that. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, sir.
What kind of an insect problem do you have?
Just like normal, so you got to keep an eye out for it. But I'll say this, that there's some very easy, inexpensive things you can do preventatively for bugs. One of them, if you can find raw milk, it's all illegal now, and it's just terrible for you. You don't need raw milk. I grew up on a dairy farm, and I've never had a cavity. But if you put a little bit of raw milk in your system every week, It will basically raise your brick levels, your sugar content in your plants, and 90% of the bad bugs won't even bother your plants because they chomp into it and they can't eat, they can't digest that and move on. So there's just a lot of little things you can do like that.
Did you say milk?
Milk, raw, it's gotta be raw milk. If it's not, see, raw milk is actually very good for us. When they send it off and pasteurize it, it kills everything in the milk. Then they take all the solids out and make ice cream and butter. They filter it out and then they take what's left and call it whole milk and sell it back to us. Yes, sir.
First of all, Chad, thank you very much. Great presentation.
Thanks.
Just recently on National Public Radio, they said that there's nothing wrong with GMOs, which is crap. And they had another show where, or no, another segment where they were talking about the labor shortage on the part of growers in California. They can't find enough workers to go pick vegetables because they're not willing to pay a decent wage. And so they're coming up with these technologies where they thin the plants using, I know this sounds crazy, they use sulfuric acid to kill what they feel is the excess plants. And they say, but of course, there's no danger from the sulfuric acid whatsoever. And I was wondering if you had any comments about how this information, the real information about the evils of GMOs and other practices in agriculture can be disseminated to the average guy on the street.
Oh, I wish I had another hour with you. I have a presentation on just GMOs. And it's not theory. They've actually done this already. They have an over 200 cow herd in China where this herd of dairy cows has been infused with human DNA to the point that they're producing human breast milk as milk. And they have it. It's 200 herd, it's growing. They have pigs whose noses will glow because they've been infused with a jellyfish that has this neon chromosome or whatever.
Yeah, they talk about it.
It's ridiculously crazy stuff. The GMO thing, the biggest thing for me with the GMOs is there's not one, but there's I think 2, if not 3 studies that have been done now with rats and GMOs. And by the 3rd generation, it starts to get real dicey. But by the 4th generation, they're 100% sterile. 100% sterile by the 4th generation. Their cancer rates go up by like 30-40%. And the tumors and all this kind of stuff with rats. It's just not good. You can't be messing around. Yes, sir.
I just want to comment, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett are the biggest sponsors in the private sector of GMOs all over the world. Because that's their way to reduce the population.
Yeah. If they get to that 4th generation.
And bloodshed. And they write about it. It's not a secret. You can find it out. You can write about it.
I want to go back to your NPR thing. Sometimes, I don't know, I may step on somebody's toes here, but I listen to NPR on a regular basis because I find it like kind of like the Comedy Channel. I like to see what is going on. Because a couple things you just said were just so blatant to me. You're saying that you heard, they were talking about, it's all about scarcity. It's all about fear. Oh, there's not going to be enough, and there's not enough workers, and we got to raise the wages. Well, raising the wages will cause poor people to become more poor. The whole thing is just propaganda.
NPR can be almost as bad as Fox News.
Yes, sir.
Can you talk about a little bit about what's going on with the centrifugal filters? What are they used for, and how do they work, and why are they in some systems but not other systems? When do they become important?
Where's that? Okay, I have a different. There it is. Grow beds and filtration. So we spend a whole class on talking about radial filters, swirl filters, mechanical type of filters, biofilters, different types of substrates to use and why they work better. But basically, well, we include a radial filter, which is just a solid settling. The water comes up from the fish tank, and by gravity, the solids fall to the bottom the way we have it set up. And the reason for that is we want some solids to get in our system, but see, fish create ammonia from their gills, And so it's like a liquid form of waste, like, liquid waste. Their solid waste is still usable in our system, but if we get too much solid waste building up into our beds, we wind up with what's called sludge. I spent a whole day with one of the professors at U of A, and we talked about this. And what they found is that sludge really tests out as really useless. And so we don't want sludge to build up very fast in our system. It's going to build up over time, but with our radio filter in place, we can filter off a large portion of that where you can run these systems for 10 or 15 years before you ever have to clean it.
Radio, is that?
It's like a swirl filter, but radio filters work better with fast-moving water. Swirl filters will only work with slow-moving water. My system is running really fast, and so I had to figure out a way. And radio filters are actually, I think, more efficient than a swirl.
We have a system now that we're putting in using a sand filter. It has a swirl filter that does the solids go in, and then you just every now and then you just drain it and you go water some tree or something, with it. And then what Bob has done, and we're putting on mine, as a matter of fact, we were just working on it yesterday, is that water, before it goes back, goes through a sand filter just like you're doing a swimming pool. But what he did is he put in the bottom, he has a PVC piping. It has little holes in the PVC, and he takes a wet dry vac and reverse it, blows it, and it's all these bubbles go in, and it just creates all the waste comes to the top, and it just flows out into a waste bucket that then he uses on his trees. So his water is perfectly clear all the time. And I'm not sure, we're going to see if that's good, but the sand filter takes out all the rest of the stuff. It's just perfectly clean water all the time. So we're still experimenting, and he did that because he was having a lot of clog issues and sludge and stuff. But he's eliminated that. To his benefit, we'll find out.
But I want to address real quick, here again, you can have success with a very simple system. It doesn't have to involve, all these filters and things. The system in Ecuador, proves that point. We don't even have air pumps running in gravel beds. We don't have any filters on there other than the gravel beds. And it's working great. And I've been, building these systems for over 2 years, that exact design. And they work great. These kind of things, sand filters and our radio filter, are really extra things that just make it work a little better. It's kind of like, I got a great running Ford truck, but hey, if I put, a bigger exhaust pipeline, less pressure against the motor, I'm going to get a few more RPM, horsepower. So it's that kind of stuff. Yes, sir.